Welcome everybody to the third day of See Your Future Expo virtually. And our panel today is going to focus on health and kind of the biomedical, and they have some great stories, and we're going to learn a little bit about their journey. And so I'm Jennifer Suss. I'm the Academy Coach here at Horlick High School, and I have met Ron and Gretchen. I do not believe I've had the honor of meeting you, but of course I look forward to if we ever get a chance to meet each other. And then, of course, just, you know what, no pressure, but we have about 350 freshmen kind of watching this right now. And the teachers, of course, are going to help with the classroom and answer any questions behind the scenes as well. So I'm going to start out and ask, we have about 5 questions. And then if our conversation takes us into another place, we have room for this as well. And I do believe we just welcomed Nikki. And so hello, Nikki. And we're just getting started. So I'm going to go ahead and here's our first question. Our first question is, what is your name, company, organization, and position title? So who would like to start out? Gretchen, do you feel like starting us out? Beautiful, thank you.
Sure. So I'm Gretchen McCracken. I'm the manager of the emergency room at Aurora Medical Center, Kenosha.
Ron.
I am Ron Marker. I am the program director for the Ascension All Saints School of Radiologic Technology.
Welcome, Nikki. Would you like to tell us about who you are, where you work, and your amazing title?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nikki Payne, and I work for SewerPAC. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the right light so that I'm not blind, so that you're not blinded. SewerPAC is the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. We actually work on the infrastructures of transportation, land use, and the environment. So as we're talking about biologicals, we're dealing with the health issues as far as lead in the water and things of that nature.
Thank you. Okay, so here's our next question. What skills and education are needed in your career area? Gretchen, you want to start us out again?
Yep. So you can get a nursing degree in several different ways. You can get an associate degree, which is a 2-year degree. Programs like Gateway would have something like that. And then you could also go the BSN route, get your bachelor's degree in nursing at a 4-year university such as Parkside.
And so what kind of other skills would you need in this area? Besides just the education, can we talk about those other skills that maybe no one tells you until you get in the middle of it?
I think you need a lot of compassion. You need to love taking care of people, interacting with people on a regular basis, and taking care of people who are in the roughest spot that they've been in. So you're intervening in their life on the worst day. So you have to accept that that's they're not going to be in a good place. So you have to be compassionate around that and be able to put any feelings that you might have aside and really try to get them to a better place. That's what ER nursing is really all about.
Oh boy. Ron, tell us about the skills and education for your area.
Okay. Education for us, you can do 2 different pathways to end up being a rad tech. When you're done with your programs to become a rad tech, you have to sit for a national exam. And to sit for that exam, you have to have an associate's degree or higher. So the first path is you can get an associate degree or higher in anything you like and then get into the x-ray field. The other pathway is we are affiliated with several colleges, universities, UWM, UW-Oshkosh, Marian, Concordia, and Wisconsin Lutheran, that they basically have a 2-and-2 program that you'll do 2 years of prerequisite work with them. Once all of that work is completed, you can apply to any of their affiliate programs, get into the programs, do your 2 years in the x-ray program, and then when you graduate, the affiliate university will grant you your bachelor's degree in radiology. Either pathway will let you sit for that national test. As far as skills go, I'll kind of, echo what Gretchen said. It's definitely, you're seeing patients on their worst day. you have to have a lot of compassion with them. You have to have a lot of patience with them. One thing that I always find amazing is, and funny, is that people will come and apply to us in radiology and say, well, I started in nursing and I didn't like nursing because of all the patient contact. And it's just like, but we see just as many, if not more patients than the nurses do each day, because, you know, we're working in the ER, we're working in the hospital, we're working in the emergency room, the surgery, everywhere else. So you definitely have to have that knowledge base of being able to do exams in multiple settings across the hospital. And you can work in clinics and anywhere else, and you'll still see those same moments of, you still have to touch the patient, you still have to work with the patient, you still have to converse with them and get a history from them. And that's one of the things that, you know, again, that people think, oh, I'm just going to, and this is a misconception in many places about radiology, is I just have to go push a button. That's not true. You know, medical terminology plays a big part for us. Math and sciences play a big part for us as well. So those are just some of the key components that rad techs have to work with every day.
I like it. Nikki, shed some light on your area of expertise.
Well, I'm going to say there's a lot in what I was hoping with fitting in this little box today, as we talk about biomedical, is that you can think about some of the other factors. So when we're talking about environmental, we're talking about public health. As I mentioned earlier, I know if you've watched the news at all, we talked about how the lead pipes is getting lead in the water. We're having kids that are having lead poisoning. Another big project that we're working on at SORPAC is the regional chloride study, where we're talking about, we live in Wisconsin. You live in Wisconsin, it's going to snow. You're going to throw salt out because we don't want to slip and fall. But salt doesn't break down. Again, relying back on your science background, knowing a little bit about that. That salt is not decomposing and changing and you know, just going back to anything. It is actually changing the way our soil is. So it's affecting how our crops are, what we're eating and ingesting in our body. It's changing aquatic life. So looking at the different fish and how they are affected by it. Also, any type of plant life that's in the water. So all of these things are factors that are environmental part. So when you talk about education, you can go in a lot of different directions from what we're doing. It could be where you are actually going out and surveying and taking a look at what's going on. You may do water testing. You may do a sampling of the soil. So there are lots of different things that you can do, but the basic courses you're going to need are math and science. I'd also put on the part as far as skills, looking at your soft skills, being able to talk to people who are upset because they can't drink their water. Their water is coming out orange or brown, and they have to have bottled water, and that's not something they can afford. So it's having that passion and being able to talk and calm people down. That's a big skill that we have to have, but it's also having that scientific and math knowledge to work with what's happening and how we can make that change.
So many things I want to say. I find this very interesting, the three of you, and what you're talking about, talking to people. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about you individually, and what was your career path from high school to where you are now?
So I'll start this out again.
Perfect.
I never wanted to do anything else. So from first grade on, when you could check a little box on a form that your mother used to keep in little books, which I'm sure don't even exist anymore in our computerized world. But every year my mom would ask me, so what is it you want to be when you grow up? And it was nurse every year all the way through. So I never waffled in that. And it's interesting because I didn't really have any significant role models. There was no one in my family. I had an aunt who was a nurse, but not one who we were necessarily really close to. I didn't really know about her career. And then when I got into nursing school, I learned about emergency room nursing, never wavered again. That's exactly what I knew I wanted to do. Never had passion for anything other than that. I graduated, and at the time that I graduated a while ago, they really were not taking new grads into the ER settings. But I was lucky enough to find a hospital that had a shift open on night shift, and they hadn't been able to fill it for over a year and a half. And so they were looking for someone and were willing to take on a new grad for that position. So I started in a smaller community hospital. My journey there, I worked about 5 years on night shift, and then I wanted to transition into leadership. I had done some charge nurse opportunities, some educational opportunities for my team. And so then I did transition into a somewhat leadership position, bringing us up on the new computer system in the hospital. So I was learning that computer side of nursing and the development behind the scenes of how we order things and how we document. I did that for about a year and a half, and then I transitioned into the manager of the emergency room where I had grown up essentially. And then I did that, and I've been a manager now for probably about 25 years. Love that level. You could progress on if you wanted to into a director level. You can become a chief nursing officer. Those things in some cases require a master's degree at some sites, at other sites more rurally, they don't. But I've always really enjoyed the middle management experience. I love working for and with my team. I love knowing about the people who I work with and for, and it just seems like a good fit for me.
You're very lucky. When I get that check on the box, when you ask my 8-year-old when she was 3, her check on the box was she wanted to be a mermaid when she grew up. We're still working on that pathway.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There's opportunity there.
She'll invent it. Ron, tell us about your journey from high school, if you wouldn't mind, please.
My journey from high school was unlike Gretchen's, very far afield. I had 7 different pathways plans. And I will be honest that one of them was not going to be X-ray. I don't use this word often, but I really hated X-ray techs. I was that kid that I got hurt a lot. I broke several bones as a kid. And I remember just having a very poor experience when I broke my ankle, of her grabbing my foot to jam it into position and screaming and thinking, I hate this woman. As I got going forward and I was trying to find my path, I remember my wife, the first year we were married, she's like, what do you want to do? There's an X-ray tech program. And I said, I will never be an X-ray tech. God just laughed. So what ended up happening was I started towards secondary education to teach high school math. And I was progressing down that. I was living in South Carolina, and they had a private school near me that they were looking for a math teacher. So I redid my schedule. They hired me to teach math, and then I went to school at night, still working towards that degree. And after teaching in a private school for 3 years, I realized that was probably really not what I wanted to do. About that time, we had our first child, and she got sick and had to have an X-ray. And I started talking to the X-ray tech, and I thought, wow, that's not as bad as I thought. So I looked into it, and then that's how I ended up into the X-ray program. As I progressed over the next few years, I was moving from Illinois up to Wisconsin, and I was looking for a full-time job, and the hospital in Kenosha didn't have a full-time job, but they had a part-time instructor job and a part-time tech. So they kind of married them and merged them together for me, because they're like, hey, we saw that you used to teach. This would just be one or two classes. You teach a couple hours, do some lab with the students, and that's it. And now that started in 2003, and now I'm program director, and I teach 9 different classes, and we have 12 different students that are rotating through 3 parts of the hospital plus 2 clinics outside the hospital. So
Bringing in on the education pathway too, how you can use that education degree. Huh. Yep. Nikki.
And I won't say that I am as lucky as Gretchen or Ron. My path was definitely more scattered than that. However, I didn't really give you guys my title. As we spoke in the beginning, I was trying to be very general, as I represent Sewer PAC on a lot of different panels. So different situations, we have engineers, we have biologists, we have a lot of different things. So but I'm going to make sure that you guys hear somebody else's story. So yes, I got my bachelor's degree in biology. Like Gretchen, from age 7, 8, I knew I wanted to be a neuroscientist, neurosurgeon, excuse me, a neurosurgeon. And in high school, did our special program. So I spent 4 hours every day in the hospital. I learned a lot. I got to see surgeries and all sorts of stuff. Had great experience, knew I was going to be a surgeon. Got to college and there was a scholarship that was offered, which is Minority Access to Research Careers, MARC. But you have to do research. They want you to get your PhD. So started doing research and got national papers published and was like, okay, this is for me. I'm enjoying this part. It's great. I can move from being, and I can be a science, I can get my MD and PhD and really enjoy everything, be the rock star. Well, as I went on to grad school, because the MARC scholarship also paid for you to get your PhD, I went straight from undergrad to grad school and realized that I was more of a people person. And working in the lab with rats at 3 o'clock in the morning wasn't quite what I wanted to do. And I had a part-time job working at a hotel and just loved that experience. So here I go from science over here. I mean, a lot of different things. I won't go through everything in my career. I have gone from the scientist, gone to working in hotels, worked for the cable company. I've worked for Disney and ESPN. And bringing it full circle, went back to the hotels, got my MBA with concentration in marketing and hospitality. So as you see, I kind of went the whole spectrum, and now I'm working in government. So lots of different jumps. So there's always a chance to find out what you truly love, but I'm enjoying my job in the fact that I now am able to talk to people about things that affect them. How often do you really think about a freeway or why this housing project is being put somewhere? We do that planning 20 years in advance so that we make sure the money is there from the federal government and the state governments. So my opportunity to be engaged with the community is exactly what I love. And my title, now I'll go back and say, is Public Involvement and Outreach Manager for SewerPAC.
I'm making all kinds of notes, you guys. All right, so let's talk about, what do you love about your career? What do you love about your career?
Easy. Interaction with people. I have met just so many amazing individuals in the course of my career. And as a nurse, you have the opportunity, like I said, to take care of people on their worst day. And as a result of that, you learn an awful lot about them. I think one of the biggest factors in success with patients is to connect with them. And whatever that may be, maybe it's that both of your kids play guitar. Maybe it's that you both have a love for scrapbooking. Something that connects you with that person and honestly helps to distract them from what's happening on their worst day. In addition to not only the patients who you meet, you're in a hospital setting. You have an amazing opportunity to meet people in all different walks of life, all different healthcare positions. So even if you get in and you realize, oh gosh, this is maybe not exactly what I anticipated it to be, the opportunity to move around within nursing to an outpatient setting, to remain inpatient, perhaps in a different unit, to go into even other areas such as radiology. You can be a nurse over in radiology, you can be a nurse in OR, you can be a nurse in home health. There are just so many different opportunities within nursing. But I do think it's the connection with people that I love the most. That's why I do what I do.
Fair enough. Ron, what do you love?
Again, I'll echo a lot of what Gretchen said there, is that with radiology, you're not just in one place all day. It's not just standing and doing this over and over again. You might, in one day you might do 15, 20 just chest x-rays, and not one of those x-rays will be the same from patient to patient. So you definitely get your variety there. Again, like I said before, there's an opportunity to go in so many different areas in radiology that, most of us start off on our basic X-ray tech role that, then you can branch out into CT, MRI, interventional. You can go up to the cardiac cath lab. If you want to go back and do additional schooling, you can get to ultrasound, you can get to nuclear medicine, you can get into radiation therapy. We just had one of our grads about 4 years ago, went back and became a medical dosimetrist to help with the planning for cancer treatment and radiation therapy. We've had several of our students over the years go on to be PAs. One of them actually is working with the radiologist group that we have now. So he's working with the students from the program that he graduated from. And he's like, okay, I went through your program. I know exactly what they want from you in this. So having that great variety of so many different places, and you're going to find places that you like, you're going to find places you don't like. For me, I loved going to surgery. I loved being involved over there with the mobile fluoroscopy, which is the live x-ray, and watching them, put hardware into the body and turning my machine so that they can see exactly where they're at with every screw and every rod and whatever else they're putting in. That was one of my favorite things. As far as what you do when you love your job, I actually have this job full time, and then I work part time at a completely different hospital on the weekends. And if I didn't love what I do, I certainly wouldn't do it twice. And I certainly wouldn't be teaching the next generation of techs who are going to be filling the field in the next few years. So, I mean, there's so much out there that you can, if you get into radiology, you can find your niche somewhere.
Fair enough. All right, Nikki, what do you love?
Well, I'm going to say for my specific position, as I said, I love making sure that I'm educating people. It's always amazing when folks are like, well, I didn't even think about that, or I didn't think of how this affected me. And I'll go back to even the lead pipes. We don't always think about what's going on. So having the opportunity to educate them and let them know that they have a voice. So often it feels like a situation is just pushed on us and we don't have a choice. We have a choice, especially with our government. So when we do public meetings through SewerPAC, that's your time. And I'm saying at any age. So as high schoolers, you too can use your voice and say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. That's what I enjoy about my specific position. But on the biomedical side, as far as the opportunity, I still think as I talk to some of my other team members or other peers at my organization, and one of them, I love him to death. Every time I talk to him, we talk for like 2 hours because he's telling me about the projects that he's working on and how this goes with that. And he loves science. I mean, I don't know how to explain his love of science, and I love science too, but the conversations that he has and the passion that you see that he has with it is unbelievable. So I think you got to make sure that it's something that you really enjoy. And I enjoy what I'm doing. You're still on mute, Jennifer.
Sugar, I hate that. Sorry, thank you. So we have, like I said, 350, give or take-ish, 14 and 15-year-olds. So I want you to think back. What advice would you give? Whether it be to the 14, 15-year-old yourself, if you could go back, but then to these young people who are listening as well. Give us your words of wisdom. Gretchen, shower us.
Find what you love, find your passion in life, and don't give up. Don't give up trying. You may try several different things. I talked about my path, and I was very lucky to just have a confidence and a deep desire that never changed for what I wanted to do. That's not the case for so many people. So I would encourage you to explore. And if you get into something that you think you love and realize, oh, maybe not, transition to something else. There's always opportunity out there, always opportunity to try the next thing, to change into a different career path. And there's nothing wrong in that. Do what you love and you won't work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Ron.
I guess I'll say first, don't be worried if you're more like me and not like Gretchen, that you don't know what you want to do the second you graduate from high school. I didn't come into X-ray till I was 27 years old. You know, I had to really kind of find my way through the rest of everything else. The other thing I'll say is it's okay to mess up. I am living proof of that. I graduated high school and I went to a very expensive college that was 2 hours away from home because I wanted to get out of the house. And 18 months later, I left 3 semesters of college with a 1.67 GPA. If you mess up, it's okay. You can fix it. You have time. You know, and I will echo too what Gretchen says. If you find what you love, it'll be well worth the rest of your day. You know, I've never looked on any of my days as an X-ray tech and gone, God, I wish I'd have never done that. But you know, when you get those moments and you find that place, then all the rest of the travels and all the rest of the mistakes and all the rest of that just kind of go away, and it really makes a difference in how you spend your day and how you're going to spend the rest of your career.
All right, Nikki.
Well, you've heard my story is all over the place. So like Ron, I said, find your passion, but I'm also going to say, find out what works for you. There are lots of advantages that come to some of the jobs that you've had. I'm going to give a specific. When I work with Disney and ESPN, anytime we met, we had to either meet at Disney World or Disneyland. How many people can say, every time I have to go to a work meeting, I've got to go to Disney World or Disneyland? And we would do fun things like scavenger hunts. I'll never forget my SVP. We were doing the scavenger hunt and he told us, you know, everybody get out. One of the things we had to do was go on the Tower of Terror. And I don't like anything scary. So I told my teammates, I'm gonna sneak on the other side and I'll meet you there when it's over. He saw me, he made me ride the Tower of Terror. Yeah, he sat next to me, so I couldn't get out of it. But I mean, how many people can talk about experiences like that? I got to go to Mexico City to see the first football game that was done outside of the US. There are lots of jobs that give you opportunities to do things. Make sure that you're taking advantage of that. I did all of this before I had kids and got married. So it was where I got to enjoy it. Make sure that you enjoy what you're doing and get some of the benefits out of it.
Yeah, it must be rough going to Disney for a meeting. So we have a couple of minutes and I'm going to ask the teachers on here if anybody has a question. If anybody has a question, otherwise I can come up with some. But I'm just wondering if your young people in your classroom have something that they'd like to ask the panel.
Well, while they're waiting, I'll jump in real quick and just kind of echo what Nikki said, that radiology is a worldwide thing. As Gretchen would probably tell you for nursing, you can go anywhere in the world and do this. One of the great things for us being where we're at in Racine is that right after Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving, down at McCormick Place in Chicago, there's a worldwide expo. Basically, it's the auto show for radiology. That McCormick Place is filled with radiology equipment and techs and salesmen from around the world. I mean, I've met people from Germany, from Japan, all of that. There's speaking opportunities. I have my colleague up that runs the UWM radiology program. She spoke in Brazil a couple of years ago. You know, so there's opportunities that you can go anywhere and do anything in the world with any of our professions.
So we do have a question from a student. What is the best experience you have had in your career? Who wants to tell us?
To be there for somebody who is dying, to be there for their family members, to hold their hand, to console them afterwards, to help that transition for that family and that patient. I'm so lucky to do what I do. There are few people really, I mean, who can say that they do that day in and day out, so often during a week, to make that kind of difference in somebody's life. And the compassionate cards that you get as a result of what you do, you realize the impact and the touch that you've had in people's lives.
Life has purpose. Ron, Nikki.
I'll say for me, it was, and this is kind of a little involved, so you just have to bear with me for just a moment. I worked at a hospital in about an hour south of Chicago for about 4 years, and we had students from the local community college. I worked second shifts. I only saw them maybe like once every 8-9 weeks. And I've always kind of wanted to help, because it's, it's not just me, it's the next generation that's coming that have to know how to do this stuff. And I just remember, I would tell them what I knew. I would tell them how to get stuff that they, because not everything is by the book. You just can't live that way in radiology. And I'm sure nursing and Nikki's field you got to make changes here and there. And I only worked with this young man once or twice, so maybe 16 hours out of his whole education career. Fast forward a few years, my dad breaks his finger, has to go see an orthopedic doctor, gets the x-rays done. As the tech is walking him back, it turns out it's the same young man. And he's like, "Is Ron your son?" And my dad's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Will you tell him for me? He helped me so much." And I mean, I probably hadn't seen him for like 3-4 years at that point. So all of a sudden my mom's calling me and going, "Hey, do you remember this guy?" And I'm like, maybe. And she's like, "He said he was a student." I'm like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "He says hi. He says thanks." And I'm just like, it's those moments that there's no way you can plan for those moments to happen. And it's just stuff like that really kind of comes back to let you know that you did a good job about something.
I agree. We get that as teachers too. Nikki.
Wow. It's hard for me to answer the best. I just gave you a few of the experiences that I've had, but it does. I think Gretchen and Ron and I both are, when we know that we've made a difference and really helped someone, that's the best feeling ever. So yes, I think and I'll say the other part of, I can tell from both of them, they must also do some mentoring outside of just their job. Just being able to help in the community, whether I was doing Big Brothers Big Sisters or working with readers or leaders through the United Way, helping kids learn how to read that should be at a higher reading level. All of those things that, so it can be work related, but I think it also can be what you're giving back to the community.
I love these answers. We're at the end of our time, unless we have any other students who have something to say. And I mentioned this only because the panel on here, we want to give the students time before they leave to reflect upon what they've heard from you. And so I'm asking if we have any other students who have a question, or teachers who want to speak on behalf of the students. And if you do, let us know. But otherwise, I'm going to start closing up. So I'm not closing up yet. I'm offering it up if anybody has a question. But the three of you, thank you for being here. I took a lot of notes because my brain is thinking of all the different areas that we can bring this into the classroom. And what I heard from all of you is the compassion. And again, just to summarize, if you love what you do, like it's an actual thing. You can actually get paid to do what you love to do. And I think that's a concept many young people don't hear. You really can do what you love to do. And the paycheck is just the bonus. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have to pay for food and such, but I'm just saying. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Last call if anybody has a question. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you. And I'm going to stop the recording. Anybody? Our freshmen are shy. You should be in the hallways. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.